everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Wednesday Night Sports Exchange. Yes, my name is Scott Morgan, Rough Motor City Man. Well, no, I'm not Eli Zare with the raspy voice, but by the end of the show, I probably might get close to Eli. For those of you that don't know who Eli Zare is, go to Detroit and you'll find out who he is. The guy that's made a living in broadcasting with a raspy voice, and he's done pretty well. Mind you, please be joined by Candy Eveling, George Eichhorn, and JB Ellis, a regular Wednesday night crew. Hello, everybody.
Howdy.
What's going on?
What are we going to talk about? LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Thom Brennaman have a unique non-sports story that we're going to talk about. Chinese badminton, my goodness, why would you talk about that? Andy Murray, Russell Westbrook, Chicago sports struggles, and a few other notes that are worth talking about. But that said, okay, no better place to lead off than Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Folks, this is going to be a statistic-filled broadcast, so if you might need a pen and paper here. Michael Jordan has earned $94 million in career earnings in basketball, and LeBron James has earned $583 million in basketball. Can you believe that? That isn't good enough. Michael Jordan, $94 million in his entire career. LeBron James, for a 2-year contract, is $104 million. So, Joe Ellis, what are your thoughts about that one?
It's just a different time. There's more money in sports now. What would Babe Ruth be worth now in MLB? I mean, when you got guys getting $500 million baseball contracts, what would you pay a guy like Babe Ruth? What would Willie Mays make now? I mean, some of the all-time great players would be making ridiculous amounts now. It's the sign of the times, is the money that's in sports.
And George?
Yeah, I mean, they talk about the price of inflation and everything going up, and I agree with JB. I mean, there's too much of that going on. But again, you're always going to have the best of the best, which LeBron is and claims to be, and he obviously has earned that title, to get much more than Jordan. But I mean, it really is. It's just amazing, these contracts these teams are pouring out, especially the NBA and to a certain extent, the NFL, as far as quarterbacks especially go. But no, I see what you're saying, Scott. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that long ago, that Michael played basketball. And obviously we have still great memories of him, either pro or con. But boy, LeBron, he just went to the bank on those salary figures. Oh my gosh, it's amazing when you share those totals with us, because man, oh man, is he making out like a bandit. But again, everything in sports, like Joe said, I mean, everything is going up. I mean, price of sports, ticket prices, and television rights, all that stuff. For a better day, maybe we can talk about that. But yeah, that is amazing, Scott, when you throw out those numbers like that, of two of the greatest, if not the two greatest possibly of all time.
All right, Candy, what are your thoughts?
Yes, let's face it, the price of everything has gone up. I mean, you go to the grocery store these days and $100 isn't even your cart full, but whereas back 10, 15 years ago, $100 would have bought you a whole cart full of groceries. Like, the price of everything has gone up astronomically, I would say, except for maybe some of us regular people's salaries haven't gone up as astronomically as everything else is. But the money in sports has grown astronomically. They're allowing betting now. There is so much more money. There's the rich, as some people say, the rich keep getting richer. And so you have these guys making beaucoup, lots of money. You can debate all you want, James versus Jordan, who's better, who's had the most points, who's had the most titles, who's had this, but they also didn't play in the same era. So sometimes it's hard to really compare money, compare the 3-point shot has made, is different. There was way more defense back when Jordan played than there is now in the game. So, yeah, you would expect LeBron has made more money because the contracts are way more. There's way more money in the sport. There's way more money thrown around in the world.
Well, here's the thing. I'll give you a couple more numbers, then we'll go to D. Lowe's comments because they're pretty good. Number 1, Michael Jordan 6, LeBron James 4, titles wise. Okay, if it weren't for Jordan, LeBron James isn't making that kind of money, and then add Magic Johnson, Larry Bird into the mix. So I have nothing against LeBron James, and yes, Candy, I'll make it. You're right. There's a lot more defense back then than there is now. Everybody plays patty cake bakers, man, and choose from the cheap seats. I think that's a bunch of baloney. That's why it's hard to watch a game. Let's go to the chat room. First of all, George, you can read them.
Yeah, D. Lowe's 77. Thanks for joining us. LeBron James made the best bubble gum back in the day. Lightning Lemonade by Bubblicious.
I don't think I can eat that anymore.
Make the right decision this November at the polls. That's all I'll say about it. Okay, sir.
All right. Okay. Now we'll go on to the next stat that intrigues me. LeBron James was drafted in 2003, has 8,162 total career points. And the Minnesota Timberwolves had 7,715 total career playoff points. So these are all playoff numbers. How do you like that? This guy's got more playoff points than the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right, Candy, you can lead off with this one.
You know, he's taken teams deep. He's played on different teams that have gotten to the playoffs. He's probably played in way more playoffs than the Timberwolves have played. I can't tell you how many playoff games the Timberwolves have actually been in, but it's not a name that you associate with the playoffs. At least it's not a name that I associate with the playoffs.
Yeah, that's amazing. I got to read that number again.
Yeah.
8,162 total career playoff points in 2003 versus the Wolves, 7,715. So, okay, George.
Yeah, you know, they've been underperformers for a long time, Minnesota. I mean, they've had some good teams, but they just seem to fade, you know, get eliminated in round 1 or at the very best round 2, the Timberwolves, that is. But interesting connection right now, of course. I don't know how many of the listeners and viewers know, but, you know, Minnesota sent their team over way back in the day to Los Angeles, you know, and, you know, the Lakers and now LeBron, that's his team. So it's interesting that those are the comparisons that you did, Scott, because Minnesota and LeBron. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's just racked up so many points in all his years. Of course, don't forget, you know, with him not going to college, he has obviously had a much longer, you know, pro career than the normal. I would say normal Joe, but we have a normal Joe on the show today.
That's not a normal Joe.
Boy, Icorn, you know what? There's something wrong with you tonight, Icorn. You're actually funny. I swear to God.
That's good.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm used to chewing you out, not laughing with you. Yeah, but ironically, when I came up with this topic, it never dawned on me about the Minneapolis Lakers, but that's where the Lakers did begin, and they kept the name. So, yeah, interesting points all the way around. All right, well, you better quit while you're ahead so that we can go to the real Joe and let him try to make some sense out of this statistic. Go ahead, Joe.
It's a joke. If I can choose where I want to play with, who I want to play with, who's going to be my best friend, you know, who I'm going to trade for, how my team's going to be set up, I would hope you get the more playoff points than organizations. You know, the Timberwolves haven't been around that long. They were an expansion team. I don't expect them to have a great playoff history, but, you know, when you're drafted by one team in one city and you make this big decision, a big TV fracas with Jim Gray, you know, and you're going to South Beach because your buddy Dwayne Wade is there and Chris Bosh is coming in, I would hope you score a lot of playoff points because you were the man on that team. And then you go back to Cleveland and you have another good team because you got your guy Kyrie there and you finally win them a championship. And then, you know, you're so greedy, you got to go to the Lakers because you want to be Showtime. You think who you are, you think you're Magic, which you're not, you know. And then you say, let's go get Anthony Davis because we're going to win because we got AD because he's one of the best young players in the game who can't stay healthy. You know, I would hope you get a lot of playoff points. But when it's all said and done, he's a joke.
Well, you know what, Joe? I'll tell you. You weren't here last week, but boy, you saved some of your best commentary for tonight. I'm telling you this, because number one, that debacle about the South Beach one was a joke. 2, he's chasing championship. I had nothing wrong with that. I think his best championship actually was with the Cleveland Cavaliers anyways, not the asterisk one L.A. and the two that he got in Miami, where they were supposed to have the old 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, they were the hunted at that point. So and LeBron, the GM, still doesn't give him more championships than Jordan, and of course Magic has 5 of them. So I will tell you right now, and me personally, I wouldn't put LeBron James in my top 5. I really wouldn't. I would even shove him closer to 10 when you look at the NBA history of all these players. And yes, D-Lowe's, you are right. I'm putting the heat on George the last couple of nights, but that's okay. You do it after 40 years. What's a couple more nights anyway? But the reality of the whole situation is this, okay? People can debate me all day long. I don't care. I'm always good for a good debate. But when you look at all the players that have played in the NBA, and there have been an awful lot of great players, I wouldn't even put LeBron James in my top 10. I really wouldn't. But, if I want to get assassinated, then so be it. But I don't care. You live life once anyhow. And, for anybody that's ever watched the movie Talk Radio, maybe that's how I'll end up anyways. I'm not going to leave that out there for discussion because somebody might get some crazy ideas with no gun control laws here. But the reality of the situation is, Joe, I know he's putting his head down. They don't know what's coming out of my mouth next. And again, nobody ever does. But the reality is you're right. I mean, let's get all these championships. He's only got 4 in his pocket. You can have all the scoring that you want, 3-point shots, and being surrounded with a bunch of great players. But how many real championships? Not the one with COVID. You have 3. That's it. 2 in Miami and 1 in Cleveland, not the asterisk one that occurred out of Orlando. So, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to lighten up the mood a little bit. I'm going to try to lighten up the mood. So everybody speak on this one?
Yep.
I have to lighten up the mood. I've got a unique non-sports story called A Police Officer Pulls Over a Self-Driving Car for Driving on the Wrong Side of the Road. Oh, goodness, Candy, you've been driving with me a long time. What do you think about this topic?
It scares me because why would a self-driving car, which that they're up and coming, whether you agree with that or not, or want to be in a car like that or not, it's the future and it's coming. So did someone misprogram this car that it was driving on the wrong? That's kind of scary because if it's in the wrong lane, like, could it have caused an accident or what happened? Like, that's just kind of scary. Like, I mean, I don't know. If no one's driving the car, there's no one to react to stop that. And I guess I've never been in a self-driving car, so I wouldn't know if you can override it or how quickly you can override that. But I could see where this could cause a lot of accidents because let's face it, there have been a lot of glitches in different things that have been programmed on computers, on whatever, that's kind of scary.
So let me ask you a question. What's a police officer going to tell to the self-driving car? I'd like to know exactly if that's a Webster dictionary.
Hey, there's got to be an owner of that car so that someone's got to get the ticket.
Yeah, but it was the car that did the problem, not the owner.
Yeah, but the owner was in the owner must have been in the car and owned the car. There's got to be a way to override some of that.
I don't know. You know what? I don't think I'm smart enough to know, and I'm king of the road, and I know that. All right, Icorn, what do you think about this one? Insanity 101.
Yeah, it's not only crazy, but it's scary as well. There's just been too much stuff going on with accidents and stuff. There always are, but man, these autonomous cars and like you said, driving on the wrong side of the road, and I mean, you're talking about, we're talking about potentially the loss of human life. And anytime that some stuff comes up like that, I'm sorry, man versus machine, I'll take man's chances, okay, on that, which means I'm not a big fan of autonomous driving vehicles and electric vehicles. But I mean, I know it's the wave of the future for a lot of people and a lot of the automobile companies. But yeah, I mean, that scenario is, yeah. Well, Candy, I think maybe Scott is saying maybe there's nobody in that car. So it's kind of a funny thing, too, because the cop says pull over and it's driving itself, which there are some that do that. And, it's just, scary as hell, because if they do venture off to the wrong side, wrong way, oh my God, it's just crazy. It's crazy to think about. And I really don't look forward to that day when, if I'm in that car like that, watching it drive by itself.
Yeah, well, I'll go back to the old days when we used to watch Lost in Space, and the robot would say, "That does not compute because this one doesn't compute
Yeah.
at all."
Yeah. I remember
All right.
that line.
Yeah, me too. It almost feels like yesterday, a lot of yesterdays ago. Joe, we waited a
So
little while here for you to answer this one, so go ahead, make us
there are a
proud
lot of
with this.
there are a lot of problems with a self-driving car.
Yeah.
Like Candy said, there's got to be an override. There has to be. And if it's computers, we see nowadays major hospitals have ransomware attacks, and computers that have got taken over. Who's to say you're not driving on the highway and a hacker decides to hack your car, and decides how they're going to drive it? What do you do then? If you don't pay $3,000 immediately, we're going to crash you into the side of the road, into a barrier. What do you do? So I don't know. I'm not a fan of, driving should be a human interaction, like umpiring. I want my humans in control of things, not computers.
There's no way I'm driving one of them things. I can tell you right now. Candy knows I'm fiery behind the wheel as it is, and even though I'm not wearing my King of the Road hat tonight because I can promote the brand, there's no way I'm driving one of those things at all. And I'm happy with my van. Go ahead, Candy.
My other thought is I remember watching, and I don't know which crime show it was, but there was a car where someone was driving it and they stopped it because they hacked into the system. So my question is, with all the fraud that we see going on, can they, if it's a self-driving car, can they hack into the computer and bring that car to them, and now all of a sudden it's a stolen car? And how many of these can they do? And then, alter it. And I mean, it just scares me because I really think it's leading us up to potential danger and fraud. And yeah.
Yeah, where's Joshua Door when I need this guy? Here's a guy that drives a Tesla truck, okay? And I'd like to see him come on here and voice an opinion there. I wouldn't drive that thing. Roy Firestone made a comment on his timeline recently that he thinks that should be in Afghanistan and Iran and Iraq, okay? So, Josh and the guys are huge fans of self-driving. Yes, they are, but there's no way I'm going to be caught dead in one of them. No way. I'm king of the road, and I'm not giving that title up. So if Josh is anywhere near here, go ahead. Come on in, Josh. Of course, Josh is really good. He'll listen to the show, and I'll get nailed with all these FaceTime calls about his opinion one way or the other. But there's no way I'm going to go there. What's going on? Just what I was thinking about. All right,
you're late, Josh. You're late.
No, actually, he's on time because he has a chance to talk about these self-driving vehicles. This guy's been waiting. Would you be caught dead in a Tesla? Yeah, you bet, brother. I wouldn't be caught dead in one of those. But, hey, if you like to drive it, it suits you fine. But there's no way. And let me tell you another thing about driving on the wrong side of the road. I hear when you go out to Britain or any of those countries that actually go ahead and you drive on there. Many years ago, I drove a motor scooter in one of those islands out there on the wrong side of the road. And I got used to it. But, that's another challenge on the road I've had to deal with. But, hey, what can I tell you? There's no way. Now, let's go to Joshua Doe. You got to be fair. He said, you wouldn't be caught in. You better believe that, brother. And I'll tell you anywhere you want to know. My car drives itself. Oh, my God, I'm not going to be on the same side of the road as you. I'll pick you up and take you where you want, but I'm not driving in that thing. Okay, now, question for Scott. When will you bring back Serene Sundays? Well, at least the man is going out there and watching my YouTube channel. Kudos to you, Joshua. I don't know if there's any day that's ever serene with me anymore, but I know I'll let you know. And of course, you're a subscriber, so you'll know anyhow. Elon and Tesla will change the world. Yeah, Elon Musk and Tesla. Okay, but I'm glad that you guys made it on here to defend that, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't be caught dead in a minivan. Well, nobody's asking to be caught dead. I would rather think that you should be caught alive in a minivan, not dead. So don't worry about it. So with that said, but I tell you what, I'm going to be caught alive when Candy gives us a station break, right, Candy?
That's right.
Yes. So the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book last November called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by none other than Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And the foreword was written by none other than George Eichhorn. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Google, and Apple Books. You can also find a link to it on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where Scott writes, JB writes, Eichhorn writes, and I've actually taken pictures. Go check out our website. And if you like, there's all kinds of great content. So if you like NFL, we have transcripts from the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Lions. We have a lot of South Florida Tribune or South Florida colleges. We have USF, Miami Hurricanes, Gators, FAU. They all send us content. Go check out. If you see the red subscribe button by George, click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family. Monday nights, we talk hockey, and then we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday nights, you never know what we're going to talk about. Scott, you never know what Scott's got planned up his bag of tricks. And then Thursday nights is Fire Up. You never know what we're going to be talking about that, but guaranteed we'll have a segment called My Town on there. You can also hear all our podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to sponsor a show or advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you missed any of this, it's been scrolling on the bottom. Rewind, watch again, or if you're listening, listen, rewind and listen to us again. Back to you, Scott.
All right, I want to go back to Joshua Door's comment. I wouldn't be caught dead in a minivan. I hope you definitely aren't caught dead in your life because you got a beautiful wife and a good-looking kid, so that's okay. Wow, I didn't know Scott wrote a book. That's okay. You certainly do know. But I'll give you an LOL with what left I have on my voice. Rob writes there, too. Yeah, Rob Peterson's going to be doing a lot of great things for us, not only as a writer, but as our hockey commentator. This guy, you'll be hearing a lot more about him as time goes on. All right, well, we're going to stay in our industry for a moment. Thom Brennaman, who was exiled from broadcasting for nearly 4 years after uttering a homophobic slur on a hot microphone during a baseball broadcast, has been hired as the lead voice for nationally televised college football games on the CW. So, you know what, George? We've both obviously been in the industry. And Thom Brennaman deserves another chance to get back in the industry. You think he's learned his lesson?
Well, I do. I'm not one that says over and out, one done, you're out of here. We've seen too much of that during our career, Scott. There's a long list of people, as you know,
Right.
including Jimmy the Greek Snyder. But Brennaman, he's been out for a while. I mean, he's a very hardworking sports broadcaster, has done a hell of a good job in Cincinnati, where he spent most of his years. And the fact that college football is, let's face it, every game is on television now, which never was the case. So, I mean, they need good broadcasters. They need good play-by-play men like Thom. But to answer your question, yeah, I think he deserves another chance. He apologized for what happened. I'm sure he had to go through, training and, a crash course on some of those items like that he couldn't, let's just say, he must have got training and he must have got a little bit of education on what he should and shouldn't say.
Yeah,
But
they call it sensitivity training.
Thank you. Sensitivity. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. So I'm for him to do it, but boy, he's got to be more careful next time. Even if you have those kind of views, you just can't say stuff like that.
And Joshua, George, just to answer your question, all I can tell you is it was a homophobic slur, and I won't go into any more detail than that. Okay, Joe, you're in the industry just like I am. What are your thoughts about Thom? You think he belongs back on the air?
Listen, we've all said stupid things.
Right.
Do we mean them? That's a bigger question. I don't know Thom personally.
Right.
I'm gonna assume the fact that he survived so long before doing something stupid that he didn't mean it. Do you deserve a second chance in life? For sure. You got to be careful. But we've all said stupid things. I mean, you look at people, we all make mistakes. It's not about the mistake. It's what you do after your mistake that proves your worth as a person.
Right.
And as a professional, I'm shocked that he would make that mistake.
Right.
But at the same time, it can happen to anybody. We talked before the show. What happens if somebody hit live by mistake and one of us said something stupid? It can happen to anyone anytime. Because, we're humans, we have emotions, and sometimes we do stupid things. That doesn't mean we feel a certain way. It doesn't make it acceptable either, but, there's a fine line.
Candy?
I'm probably going to disagree with you guys because as a broadcaster on that kind of stage, you have to keep yourself to a certain level. And I get it was a hot mic, it was on, and he probably thought it was off. But nonetheless, he said something that was derogatory to a group of people. Now, I'll tell you, in most professions, there is something you can do to get fired from whatever job you have. As a broadcaster, this is probably one of the only things that would really get you fired from a job. We're all held accountable for our actions and what we say. And in some instances, that could get you fired. And so, do I think he deserves another shot? Maybe. But I also know that there are a ton of other people out in this world that want that kind of a job. And my only thing is, did he get the job because of his previous experience, or I don't know. I'm torn because I really think that it's hard, because in a day and age where you see so much of this, you see so many people saying things and then getting fired, and we're at a heightened level of, how should I put it, of derogatory statements, of classifying people in a certain category and talking down to them or anything like that. You just have to be very careful, and especially when you are in that booth, whether it's a hot mic or not, there's no room for it in a profession on that professional level, if you ask my opinion.
Okay, here's the thing. I have met Thom Brennaman one time, actually at Ford Field. We spent a lot of time talking. Seems like a nice guy. I don't know if he again, hot mics is something you can't have, and he should have been aware that that thing was on. That's a thing that we all have to be aware of when we're live. You got to know when you're live, otherwise you don't know who's going to pick up what. Now, a couple weeks ago, I went out there and interviewed a guy by the name of Fred Clare. Okay, and you want to talk about the one thing that gets you off the air besides a hot mic? How about racist comments? Okay, Al Campanis. Okay, ABC News Nightline. Talk about managers and general managers not being able to hold those positions. Okay. So when you think about it, racist gets you into trouble, and what he did get you into trouble. Let's not lose the fact that one of the greatest broadcasters ever, and I've had a chance to meet him a few times, with Marty Brennaman, his dad. I think I have Marty's number somewhere. So, I can only imagine how Marty felt when it happened, but he understands his son made a mistake. We all make a mistake. Does he deserve a second chance? Now, there was a comment in here that might actually, Joshua Dore actually made it, that nobody watches CW anyways. Up until this, I never even heard of CW, but I am starting to hear more and more about it. I think they're going to be doing more college football anyways, but I don't want to get into too much CW. But you would think that if CW gave him another chance, he's probably going to be under a very big microscope, knowing that, what happened before, you got a second chance, you better watch what you're doing this time. And I think his leash is going to be a lot shorter, and you hope and pray that all that training that he ended up getting did work. But when I tell you to Fred Clare about Al Campanis, oh my gosh, you talk about career. I hate to use the word suicide, but I will, for the career suicide. That was what Al Campanis, and he worked for the Dodgers over 40 years and still got fired because of racial comments. So, Thom, I hope you learned your lesson. He's actually a connection of mine on LinkedIn. Tried to get him on the show, but never got a response back. But we'll see. He's going to be on CW, and he is a good football announcer. And I don't know what else CW is going to do, but he'll be under a lot of scrutiny as well. We're going to take this and move it in a different direction. Okay, well, Brianne Norway, George, I don't know who that is, but
it's a friend of mine. Yep.
Okay, Stewart times Leghorn, the embellish used to say, whatever. Okay, that means nothing to me. All right, so we'll go into a little bit more of a softer story since we've come out firing on this one. She said, yes, a Chinese badminton player got engaged after winning gold in mixed doubles at the Olympics. My good, Chinese badminton we can add to cornhole, ping pong, and We can even add to the hot dog eating contest. But you know what? I'm glad that they said yes and won gold. I can't imagine what the jewelry would be like if it was gold, but at least you have a medal somewhere. So, Candy, let's take the old sensitive side. Isn't that nice that Chinese badminton people got to say yes?
I think it's awesome. I think she was on a big stage, and for her fiance now to have popped the question, and it makes a really great story. Like, not only did she win gold, she also, won obviously his heart, and she said yes, so she's going to spend the rest of her life with him. Awesome.
Makes doubles. Oh, what a beautiful thing. What about you, Georgie? Georgie.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're incredible athletes. I mean, I know I don't really follow that sport very much, but man, oh man, badminton was always fun when I was a kid. And the Chinese, and you mentioned the other one too, the ping pong. Oh my goodness, they're so good at that too. But it's kind of a cool story. I mean, sentimental, romantic, and the fact that the question was popped, and it does make for a very interesting story. I saw some feature or something, I guess, at the Olympics. There were other athletes during the games too that proposed or after the games.
Stay on point so I can rip you again. Seriously,
geez.
this is the hammering of the night.
Yeah,
Icorn, you're making this a regular situation. This guy stays on point. Give me a break, okay? We're not talking High Point University. We're talking Low Point University because Icorn finds a way to deviate from what I'm saying again. Gives George some slack. No, if I were there, I'd smack him. Boom.
Oh, God.
No, I don't want to hear about all this business. No, you stay away. Come on, Icorn. This is Chinese badminton. Give these people their due on the big stage, sick man. Really?
Okay.
When are you ever going to learn? When I'm
Never.
Yeah, I know. All right. George needs 2 weeks timeout. I don't know how much timeout. He may need new hearing when I get through with him. Hey, listen, how many people on this panel can go out there and play ping pong? You know why? I'll tell you what. I have a hot mic now, and I'm going to say and interrupt you, okay? Number one, the Chinese people are so much smaller than all of us. They can get around the ping pong table quicker and smack that ball around anyway. These people are small, man. They're not Mickey Rooney, but they're small. They can get around is what they can do. That's why they're so good at ping pong. So don't give me this business. We're talking about Chinese badminton. We're not talking about Swedish badminton or whatever, or Canadian curling. We're talking about Chinese badminton. Stay on point, sick them head.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, oh boy, what?
Chinese badminton.
Yeah.
They are good.
Making his head again. Seriously?
I'll have a little broccoli, Joshua, but I'm not eating the whole bag. No way.
The only thing he's eating right now is crow.
Tastes good.
You ever had crow before? You ever had a grilled cheese sandwich out of a microwave that lasted 4 minutes where I could have had a triple pane window? I made one of those at USF, and I could have taken that grilled cheese sandwich and banged it over your head so you learn what Chinese badminton's about. Seriously?
Okay, Scott.
Okay, he's done, Joe. I think he's had enough verbal abuse until the next topic.
Really simple. Good for them. If you're in love and your partner asks you to marry them and you're happy and you say yes, great story. As far as, the Chinese badminton, I think that's just a throw into the whole thing. And it's a great story for both of them because, it was at the time where she happened to be at the top of her sport. I don't know how it's a sport, but then again, breakdancing now is a sport. So go figure.
Well, I said my piece. That's good enough. All right, now we're going to go to another sport that Candy likes the best. Andy Murray to retire from tennis after the Paris Olympics. Well, Andy Murray's had an excellent career, right, Candy?
Yes, he has. He has. He's 37 years old. He was ranked number one in singles for 41 weeks and finished at the year end number one in 2016. He's won 3 Grand Slam singles titles, 2 at Wimbledon, 1 at the U.S. Open, and has reached 11 major finals. He was ranked in the top 10 for all but 1 month from July 2008 through October 2017, and he was in the top 4 in 8 of the 9 years year-end rankings during that time. He's won 46 ATP Tour singles titles, including 14 Master 1000 events and 2 gold medals at the Summer Olympics. So good for him. Great career. I think we've seen a couple of men, and let's face it, during that time he was competing with some of the best. Like, there have been a few men that have kind of dominated, I would say, the men's tour for quite a while. I mean, Rafa Nadal was one, Sampras was one, Roger Federer was one, Novak Djokovic, I can never say his last name. Djokovic. Djokovic. There we go. That sounds pretty good there. But I mean, so there's been a few that have really molded the top in tennis, and to stay there that long, I mean, that it's just kudos to him. Kudos to him and his career.
Yeah, and he has had a good career, so if you're gonna retire, you might as well do it at the Paris Olympics. All right, now I have a new nickname for George Eichhorn, and he actually works at Hogan's Heroes called Sergeant Schultz. Okay, he doesn't know anything, but at least Eichhorn pretends he knows something anyway. Just kidding with that. Or am I? I don't know anymore. But anyways, what are your thoughts, Sergeant Schultz or Sergeant Eichhorn or whatever, about Andy Murray?
Andy Murray's had a good career, and you hit it on the head, Candy, that, yeah, he's been surrounded by other guys who were better than him. Let's just be honest. But that's not taking anything away from him. I mean, every time you have a competitive sport, but Andy, he represented his homeland very well. They loved him in Great Britain. And he was a hell of a player, and it's just too bad he didn't get more of the big Grand Slam event victories. But boy, oh boy, he's got nothing to be ashamed of, because, like I said, the country loves him. The tennis world always liked him. He's always been very kind and professional. He's not the kind that blows up. So it's sad. It's sad that a lot of these guys are leaving, but it's a tough sport, and I wish him well. I'm sure Andy will do well. Whatever he gets into.
Let me tell you, two of the favorite tennis people that I hung out with is, I'll never forget, Bjorn Borg here in South Florida. I met him down here, one of the classiest tennis players I've ever met. And Andre Agassi, very few people know, George, but you and I do, that the event that opened up the Palace was a match with Andre Agassi in it.
Yes.
And Andre Agassi is one of the nicest guys you can ever meet. So, while I've been at times been critical of some tennis players, there's some tennis players, especially Arthur Ashe as well, that are really classy and done everything what's right about the sport as well. So, all right, Joe, what are your thoughts about Andy Murray?
His career kind of resembles LeBron James. Great career, but he'll never be the best, because there was always somebody better, aka Michael Jordan. And in tennis, there was a group of people. Doesn't take away from his career. He had a phenomenal career. He was always one of the top people in the sport, but just never got to that pinnacle where you say men's tennis and you say, Andy Murray. You would say many other names before that, but that doesn't mean that his career wasn't great. And I wish him all the luck in the world. And to have a career like that, I wouldn't be upset.
He's 4th all-time leader in earnings, and his coach was Yvonne Lendl, who was a great in his day too. So.
Oh yeah,
Yvonne won a lot of matches, that's for sure. Yvonne Lendl had a pretty good career. It begs you to think a little bit. And we talked about this earlier. How much money could Yvonne Lendl have won in this day and age when we talked about Michael Jordan versus LeBron? You know what, Joe? You bring up a really interesting point there about earnings and what they could have been then versus now. Yvonne Lendl had an excellent career. I remember watching him win every match on the planet. We're going to go from tennis back to basketball, okay? We're going to talk about Russell Westbrook became the first player in NBA history to get traded 5 times after winning an MVP. How is that even possible? Joe, we're going to start off with you on this.
For some reason, their consensus of dislike towards Russell Westbrook is off the charts. The guy plays hard.
Right.
There's talk how he just plays to fill a stat line, and he doesn't have a good outside shot. But, and unfortunately, this day and age, everything's the three-pointer. You know, if you can't shoot a 3-pointer, you're not worth anything in the NBA right now. You know, I like a guy like Westbrook. I want a guy who plays hard, that's gonna, go to the rim and get rebounds, especially when they're a guard. Because you know what happens when he gets a rebound? It helps your whole team out. And it's just a personality thing. A lot of guys just don't get along with him. He's the type of guy I would take first on my team. If I'm building a team, I want a guy like that because he's a leader. And a lot of guys can't deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is this, Joe. I am so with you on this. Russell Westbrook, to me, could play in any era, anyway. I love the way he plays hard. He gets a bad rap. He really, really does. I mean, he plays hard. He doesn't miss games. I've never seen a person in this era of the NBA play with as much heart as Russell Westbrook. Why people get on his case, to me, I think, as Gomer Pyle would say, shame, shame, shame. It's not necessary. I love Russell Westbrook. Get off his back. Okay, George?
Yeah, I mean, it is unusual that a guy would move around that often. But I agree. I mean, I think he's a good ball player. He doesn't do everything perfectly. None of us do. None of the players do. But man, oh man, it is interesting, when a guy has to move that much around. But he gets the respect on the court from those players and those coaches. Trust me, even though there could be reasons why he moved around to different teams, but he does get the respect. I've always admired his work ethic and his execution. And like I said, nobody's perfect in the NBA. No shooter is going to be perfect, but Russell Westbrook, I still think he can hang his head high, and he's had a solid career.
Well, he's been traded to Denver. Okay, Denver wanted the guy. Nikola Jokic wants the guy. I hope, if anything, if could go the way it should go, if there's any such thing as a storybook ending, I hope Russell Westbrook gets his championship ring with Denver, and I hope at one point or another down the road, Oklahoma City retires his number.
That'd be nice.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Candy.
Russell Westbrook played for Oklahoma City Thunder from 2008 to 2019. 2019 to 2020, played with the Houston Rockets. 2020 to 21, Washington Wizards. 21 to 23, the Los Angeles Lakers. 23 to 24, the Los Angeles Clippers. And now 2024, the Denver Nuggets. Out of all those teams, the only one that's really a historic team is the Los Angeles Lakers. He was the NBA Most Valuable Player in 2017. He is a 9-time NBA All-Star. What I will say is he has achieved... So, Westbrook is one of 2 players in NBA history to average a triple-double for an entire season. He has achieved that feat 4 times and is the all-time NBA leader in career triple-doubles. He's known for his ability to score near the basket, his rebounding, his durability, and his intensity as a competitor. Now, the one thing I will say about the NBA, and as someone I know has called it the National Drama League, that I think there are such personalities in that league that I think, because it's a quick, fast-paced game and it's a team sport, and that's what I think a lot of these players forget. There are 5 players on your team on the court with you, and I think some of the personalities don't always mesh. And I think it's more evident in the NBA than it is maybe in some of the other sports. And so maybe partly that is why he's moved from team to team. I think some of these players that are at the upper echelon, or like maybe even the LeBrons, some of that, they may be hard to play with because they think they're, and I hate to say this, better than others, but there are some that do. And I think they don't always share the ball. They don't always have the same work ethic. And so do I think he's gotten a bad rep? Yeah, I do. I think he's a tough competitor. And like I said, the NBA has a lot of personalities, let's put it to you that way. And it's more how should I put it? It's more emphasized because there's only 5 on the field. You can have somebody that has a big personality on, like, let's face it, Antonio Brown. There's been some NFL players that have, but
Right.
it's not up to them. They're throwing the ball. He's not throwing the ball. Westbrook, they're always passing, and they have to gel as a team, and their personalities have to mesh.
The only thing I'll say about the NBA, it looks like a game of horse is all it is. Period. All they do is shoot from different spots. Where's the teamwork? I don't know. All right. Well, you know what? I've got a segment strictly for Joe Ellis. Okay, George, did you have a chance to comment on this already? This one yet?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
What about you, Joe?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then good. I've got a solo segment for Joe. Okay. Chicago sports struggles. The Bears are 7-10, last place. The Bulls 39-43, and they were in 4th place. Blackhawks 23-53-6, last. And then of course you have the Cubs 62-64 going into tonight's game, and we know the White Sox 31-97. Listen, every city has its cycle. So how would you describe what's going on in Chicago, Joe?
Right now, I think it's kind of exciting because the Blackhawks had 2 phenomenal first-round picks the last 2 years.
Okay.
The Bulls, I think, are on an upswing. They're getting better. The Cubs have a great young core. The Bears got Caleb Williams, and their defense looks phenomenal. And then you have the White Sox, who were a really good team a couple of years ago and have fallen off the face of the earth. They just cannot play baseball anymore. I don't know. Maybe they think they're playing soccer, cricket, but baseball, they're not. They won tonight, though, which is amazing. I mean, that's 31, I think, for the year, or 32. They still got a shot to finish with the worst record in history. But all the other teams, there's hope. And when you have hope, it makes it for an interesting time. But the White Sox, I don't know what's going on with them. They're the only team I don't see any hope for.
Fair enough. Grady Sizemore, interim manager. You know what? If he wins enough, maybe he has a chance to go on the new coaching staff. But right now, he got a thankless job over there. But you know what? You're right. Caleb Williams could be interesting to watch. They finished 7-10. It's not like they were only 3 games under. They were 3 games. They don't have 500 anymore until they go up to 18. And the Bulls, like you say, they're only 4 off the 500 mark. And the Blackhawks, they're drafting some quality players. So we'll see what plays out. But again, since you're in that city, I thought you had a much better pulse on it. And thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it. All right. I just want to mention 3 other people before we wrap up the show here. Unfortunately, the broadcasting world lost a giant this week in Phil Donahue. How many people who died at the age of 88? How many people in our day and age watched Phil Donahue and didn't learn anything from him? Any thoughts about Phil Donahue, Joe, George, or Candy?
Well, I think he was a trendsetter. He was a pioneer. He engaged his audience perfectly. And I'll never forget him running up to the stands, running up to the seats and, hold on, bring the microphone to the person. He wasn't afraid to do that, what they call audience participation. Oh, my God, he's the king of that. So, yeah, Scott, I mean, he was good. Mike Douglas was another one, but Phil Donahue, and look at the sweetheart he married in Marlo Thomas. I mean, right. So yeah, it's a big loss, though. You're right. He was one of the television legends.
Mike Douglas, you're lucky to get reamed out for that one, because I didn't ask you about Mike Douglas. But you know what? I'll give you a pass on this one because Mike Douglas was pretty good. Candy, do you remember Phil Donahue much?
I sure do. I mean, let's face it. It started out as the Phil Donahue Show, then they shortened it to just to Donahue. He was the first popular talk show host to feature a format that included audience participation, like George said. The show had a 29-year run on national television that began in Dayton, Ohio in 1967 and ended in New York City in 1996. His shows often focused on issues that divide liberals and conservatives in the United States, such as abortion, consumer protection, civil rights, and war issues. He had people on there that were divisive. He was not afraid to talk about those kind of things. At one point, he was often referred to as the most influential talk show host and was referred to as the king of daytime talk. If it weren't for Phil Donahue, there would never have been an Oprah show. That's a quote from Oprah herself. He is ranked number 42 on TV Guide's 50 greatest TV stars of all time. So rest in peace.
Joe?
Don't know much about him. I don't remember much about him. Didn't watch much of his show. I could just say he's an icon in the talk show industry, daytime talk. He revolutionized daytime talk. I didn't watch enough to speak on him, except to know that he was one of the great ones.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
20 daytime Emmys.
Wow. Speaks a lot. Yeah. I grew up in them, back in the day. In my book, Lessons from the Microphone, I talk about a lot of iconic ones. He didn't really make it. Really didn't understand them enough. Well, I understood them enough, but there's only so many people you can put in the book, especially those that gave you an input. And he didn't as much with me as some of the other ones, but that doesn't take away from the impact that this guy had in terms of daytime TV. Rest in peace, Phil Donahue. All right, another one in the sporting world. Al Attles of Golden State died at the age of 87, spent 60 years with the Warriors as a coach and a player. George, you and I saw him coach the Golden State Warriors, Rick Barry, and he's with that organization a lot of years. Some thoughts about Al Attles.
Al Attles, yeah, a lifer when it comes to college and especially pro basketball. He might have not had the best talent surrounding him sometimes, but he was a very, very good coach. You and I saw him, when he came into Detroit and they had to play the Pistons, and just a professional guy. I mean, he went about his business, but he had the respect of the team. He had the respect of the players. A time when the NBA was just not what it is today. It was more players. Everybody was more approachable, as we know back in the day. But Al Attles, yeah, good guy, Scott. I really admired him, and the times we got a chance to see him here locally. Yeah, great coach, good man. I'm sorry to hear he passed on.
Well, you know what? He still has stayed pretty connected with the organization, with the current Warriors, in addition to the time. So when he was an organization with many different roles, you've seen an awful lot of players. Joe, you have any thoughts about Al Attles?
No, not familiar with him.
Okay, that's fine. What about you, Candy?
He spent more than 6 decades with the organization as a player, general manager, and most recently team ambassador. He was 87 years old. Nicknamed the Destroyer for his physical style of play, the Warriors were his love and his only team after they selected him in the 5th round of the 1960 draft. It marks the longest stint with a single franchise for one person in league history. He was one of the first black head coaches in the NBA, was witnessed to some of the greatest games in different eras. He played in Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game for the Philadelphia Warriors in Hershey, Pennsylvania on March 6, 1962. He also coached Hall of Famer Rick Barry the day he scored 64 points against Portland on March 26, 1974. Then he watched Klay Thompson drop 60 points over 3 quarters in December of 2016.
Yeah, that isn't connected. I don't know what the word means.
Yeah.
Now, I know one person that Joe Ellis does know. We want to wish happy 105th birthday to Sister Jean. How about that, Joe? Chicago, Sister Jean.
Pretty amazing to live that long. I know that they're quite happy at Loyola. They love her, and I'm sure as long as she can continue to go to their games, she will.
Sister Jean, welcome to the big show, and even Joe Ellis is there to wish you a happy 105th. Even my Aunt Mary made it to 103rd, but she's still 2 years shy of Sister Jean. George?
Yeah, she's really a special lady. I mean, she got so much attention during the NCAA tournaments, and she's just an ambassador for that team. And it's amazing, Scott. And JB and Candy, that she's 105. My goodness. I saw a couple pictures of her in the wheelchair, and they gave her flowers and all that. But yeah, way to go, Sister G. Way to go. That's great.
Yeah, we love you, Sister Jean. That's why I approach you on this show. All right, Candy.
Kudos to anybody that has lived that long, but she's a legend. She continues to live her best life as the March Madness icon celebrates her 105th birthday. She has been their champ after Loyola University Chicago, where Jean has served as the chaplain of the Ramblers for more than 20 years, kicked off birthday celebrations. There's been all kinds of posts all over social media. She actually got to throw out the first pitch last year at Wrigley Field for her 104th birthday. They're planning a big celebration. I believe it's coming up later. It's on August 29th. They're going to do a campus block party in her honor. So kudos to her. I mean, you love to see things like this, someone that's a fan as much as she is get so involved and everybody, celebrate her and her life. That's awesome.
Why? Did you think I was going to do the show on a negative note? Why do you think I got Donahue and Adams out of the way? So we could leave Sister Jean for last. We love you, Sister Jean. With that said, we want to thank everybody for joining us on this explosive edition of the Sports Exchange. Every time George Eichhorn comes on his show, he makes every episode explosive. Now he even took it to baseball and got in it. But you know what, though? Eichhorn and I have been together for close to 45 years, and you know what? We're still inseparable, to cite some of the Sergeant Schultz isms that he has in his I know nothing attitude and brain set here, but at least he does know how to write a book. So with that said, go ahead, Candy, take us home.
No, well, George can let us know how we can get a hold of George.
All right. You get a hold of me at the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune. I'm a writer there, along with Scott and JB and so many of our other friends and that great photographer that's right below me here. There's a link to my book, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Scott's in the book, and so many of our great announcers in Michigan are. You can find me at gicorn@yahoo.com and also on LinkedIn under my name and on Twitter or X at SanGSports99. And look for me here on the baseball show and the Sports Exchange and Fire Up. All these great programs. Glad to be part of it.
Glad to have you, George, even though you become my favorite whipping boy lately.
Yeah, but remember that?
Okay. Yeah. We went to Little Caesars Arena. We had one of those fist moments, and it couldn't happen to two better people. All right. Thankfully, the Red Wings PR people didn't get wind of it. Oh, just they wouldn't care anyways. All right. So go ahead, Joe Ellis. Let everybody know how they get hold of you.
JB_ the program on X, sidelinesportsnet.com. Great website. All Sideline Sports shows are there. Candy designed it. It's great. Got writing by the three of us and pictures from Candy and all the other Sideline Sports people. Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're watching.
Hello, Ralph Williams. Better late than never. I'm glad you made it. Okay. Go ahead, Candy. Take us home.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book written by Scott Motor City Mad Mouth Morganroth. It's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. George actually wrote the foreword as well. And there is a picture of young Scott with a young Muhammad Ali. You have to get the book to see the picture. You can buy the book, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. You can also, there's a link to it from our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can get all kinds of great reads, great pictures, links to not only Scott's book, but there's also a link to buy our merchandise. So you can get South Florida Tribune logoed merchandise, whether it be a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, baseball cap. Go get your cap or get your merchandise today. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can hear us wherever you get your podcasts. If there's a red subscribe button that you see, that means you have not subscribed to us yet. Hit that red subscribe button. Get notifications when all of our great programming comes on. Monday nights, we talk Fire Up Florida, which is our hockey show. Then we have our baseball show, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Tuesday nights is Inside the Pigskin, which we're talking all kinds of football. And you know that season is ramping up. College and NFL. Wednesday nights is Sports Exchange. Obviously, you've caught us here. So, and then Thursday nights is Fire Up, and you never know what we're going to be talking about on that program. Preceding this episode today was Scott doing the Motor City Mad Mal show on nofilter.net. Go check that out as well. We ask you to, all of the guests that we have on all of our different platforms, they all tell you how you can get a hold of them and watch them. Please go to their websites, go to their YouTube channels, subscribe. They're helping us out, so we ask that you help them out in return. And at Tribune South is our Twitter feed. Scott, did I miss anything?
You did fine. And by the way, JB, I want to thank you very much for helping us on social media with the content as well. Making we can get out there, do a really good job getting our content to as many people as possible. Much appreciated. Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, we really do. Now, everybody did a good job tonight. My voice survived a little bit. Enjoyed some of the active stuff in the chat room. You know, some of these guys make interesting points, and we do the best they can if they're tasteful enough to put as many up as we possibly can. We like to run a clean show, and that's exactly what we're going to do on every platform. Our goal is to entertain and educate, and if we feel we've hit some people here and are able to accomplish that, then we feel like our time on the air was worth everybody's while. So meanwhile, I want to thank everybody for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. We'll be here back next Wednesday night. So on behalf of George Eichhorn, Candy Appling, JB Ellis, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Mad Mal. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Wednesday night. Have a great weekend, everybody. And by the way, Candy does an unbelievable job hosting Fire Up on her own. And also, you should give your Tuesday a shout out as well with the chicks. You do an unbelievable job with them as well. So I just want to make sure we got that in before we call it night. Good night, everybody. See you next week.
Good night.